Well, good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, I came prepared. You can't miss Sheila on this shirt. I am the creator and executive producer of the Purple Paisley Brunch, which was created to honor the legacy and the music of Prince Rogers Nelson and all of his artists. And D'Angela, thank you so much for allowing me to come in and just meet everyone and just absorb all the knowledge that has been presented these last couple of days. So I thank you. Thank you for that. Oh. Is it regular water or? Oh, okay. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. But
These are the questions for the audience. You just click these arrows to go through them, and you
Right.
have to answer all of them if you don't want to.
Okay. All right.
And then so that's the wrong one?
Okay.
Hold on. Thank you.
Dr. Karen, Dr. Maury.
Give me 1 second. I have the wrong one. Yes, you're absolutely
Well,
right.
while D'Angela is pulling up the correct number for the Minty questions, I had a couple of things I wanted to say before we got started. So, Sheila Cecilia Escovedo. Anybody who knows me knows I give everyone government names. What can we say about her? Born in Oakland, oldest of 4 children, Queen of Percussion, first percussionist to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There is so much that we can talk about, but we're here to discuss The Glamorous Life, the 40th anniversary. Recorded December 27th, 1983 to April 7th, 1984. The album was released June 4th, 1984, with the title track as the first release. And the reviews were favorable. Here's a review from allmusic.com. Produced by Prince, this is one of the best albums that came out of the Purple One's Minneapolis funk rock empire in the 1980s. The hit title song is a classic, and the same goes for the quirky new wave-ish Oliver's House. The Latin tinge, and as we found out today, D'Angela's favorite song, The Bell of St. Mark, and the funky instrumental, the funky instrumental Short Berry Straw Cake. Although Prince's stamp is all over the LP, Escovedo did most of the writing herself. The Glamorous Life isn't the only excellent album that Escovedo provided in the 80s, but it's definitely the most essential. Now, we were talking about Maury, was talking about memories. So my first memory of Sheila was when she appeared in Lionel Richie's video Running with the Night, when she had the afro and that horrid bridesmaid's dress. But that was the first time that I saw her. And yes, I do have the teal vinyl Glamorous Life edition. And before we go forward, let me just give a big shout out because she's watching to Jill Jones, the Queen of Paisley Park. That's what I call her.
Hello.
Jill was the one that was singing the vocals on, I'd say 90% of all the albums that came out in 1984. So she definitely deserves props for that. So let's get started. I have a couple of questions. Now, this one is for Dr. Maury. Let me put my readers on. Okay. Dr. Maury, you mentioned that Sheila's list of projects with accomplishment in music, George Duke, Marvin Gaye, Lionel, as the black folks call him. What do you think that influence had on her work with Prince?
I think it was very present. So even her work with Santana, right? So in her book, she reveals that she was actually in a relationship with Santana. Mm-hmm. And Prince, when asked about, guitarist who influences him the most, he always mentioned Santana as an ally and as how he saw himself. And I know that that was information that they knew that was not necessarily public to everyone. And I think I talk about, Sheila's empowerment as an artist and how she shows up. I think her strength, her ability to say, what would normally be in the back, I'm gonna put it in the front. I'm gonna sing, I'm going to command the stage. I'm gonna be able to go on par with Prince. Zahir mentioned earlier, and actually my favorite performance with them is that Love Bazaar. I cannot tell you how many times I rewatched that over and over again from Romance 1600. Mm-hmm. is because she was with George Duke, is because Tito Puente is her godfather, is because she grew up playing music. Like it was her way of life. So maybe the public is seeing her in this alliance with Prince and, trying to coin her as one of the proteges, but she really does come with a cup that's overflowing, right? So that might be one of the things as an artist that she's walking with. And I think she talks about it now. You'll hear about it more now than you did in '84. But it's because she knew who she was. We just didn't know who she was.
Yeah, it was quite clear she had a full career.
Yeah, a whole career
before,
and with major
Prince came in the
artists. I mean,
picture.
like imagine
Yes.
going on. Imagine you're and the Marvin Gaye gig. They called her, right? It wasn't like she was going on auditions. No, Marvin Gaye sought her out, right? And that was his last tour on the road. So you're looking at someone who is, like she was probably like one of those best kept secrets in the room. Right. So, Michael Jackson's Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. And the story there is that Michael calls her to go to a record signing when the album drops.
Right.
And she's not on the credits. And she says to him, he wanted her there. And she's like, I'm not on the credits. He's like, you're not on the credits. What? Like he didn't know she wasn't on the credits, but he made sure she got her royalties. Right. So this is somebody who's coming fully amped into the Prince camp. Right, which is exciting, right? And this is why, and she's sexy and she's beautiful. So you're getting this, I think Prince was like, I found the whole package, right? This is a 360 version of all the things he's been thinking about. And I do think, and in my piece, I mentioned like the musical soulmate. I really do believe they were musical soulmates. She is his reflection. So he gets to stand and be like, okay, that's what I am. And she's like, that's what I am as well.
Right. And in his words, not bad for a girl.
Listen, the haters gonna hate sometimes, but he was just joking.
Dr. Karen, do you mind if I call you Dr. Karen?
Absolutely.
First of all, great presentation.
Thank you.
I never would have thought about the symbolism with the entire mink and how it evolved to present day, actually. But can we just talk a little bit about there's a piece that says in the medieval times that fur was basically for the upper class
Yeah.
Caucasian women. But as I was jotting down these notes, I thought about Dorothy Dandridge, Eartha Kitt, Josephine Baker, and as you posted earlier, Diana Ross and Lil' Kim. Can we just talk a little bit about the symbolism, and Dr. Moore, you can chime in on this, the symbolism of wealth and representation for Black women?
Yeah, I love this question, and this like I warned everybody. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do the fur coat, great, and I'm like, okay, how much time do I have? It's so much, and I was only able to put a few images, but I love your mention of Josephine Baker. So she's part of my scholarship in French studies, and I think about Black Paris a lot, and her story is so complex, right? Yes. Like she goes over there with U.B. Blake and Cecil Noble for she's taken out of the chorus line in New York. And they go overseas with Sidney Bechet, and she's on stage in that review, right? And then she becomes this star for performing naked with just a feather, and then she becomes this incredibly celebrated, iconic, like the first international Black superstar is this American woman from the South, right? Or from St. Louis, yeah. I lived there, and I was like, this is the South, because I'm from Minneapolis. So you sound like it's the South, but I know it's not. Midwest. But, and then she had the glamorous life, my goodness. I mean, you have all these beautiful images of her in furs, and all of her films are these stories of like a Cinderella type of, like they call it, Phyllis Rose, one of her biographers calls it the Parisianization of Josephine Baker, and her becoming this glamour star where she has the Baker fix hair, and then all the Parisian women want to have the but then we can't forget that she was also asked to preside over the Exposition Coloniale of 1931, right? Where there's human zoos of people brought over from the French colonies that are still happening. And so it is an incredibly complex story for her. And then she comes back to the U.S. and she's not allowed to get a coffee in some of these places where she's touring over the U.S., but she owns a chateau in France. And she's the most famous woman in Paris and all of France, right? And she's married to someone, I think her first husband, well, she has many husbands. One of her husbands was royalty, right? Like she's friends with Grace, Princess Grace, and she has this incredible story. She spoke on the Mark John Washington, right, on the Lincoln Memorial with Dr. King, and so she has this incredibly complex history. And I think, like, you mentioned Eartha Kitt, you mentioned all these other Dorothy Dandridge, my goodness, like all of these incredible stars, right? And so I think, like, we cannot reduce what one little thing, like I love everybody talking about, like, the fur coat. There was a lot of talk about it earlier today, like, oh yeah, street worker, sex worker, and all that stuff. And yes, and like I think that's also what these like discussions about Prince and his legacy and the people surrounding him in these universes is like, it's all about the yes and, like, let's talk about all these other implications that go with it and all these histories. And it's this sort of, I really love thinking about Prince in these terms and everybody that he works with and how and I never knew I was going to be doing a talk on Sheila E. and fur coats, right? and I love this opportunity. I usually talk about his clothes, and I talk about masculine clothing, and it was really fun for me to get to talk about women's fashion for a change and see all. And this is just the iceberg. There's a lot more I couldn't get to. So yeah.
Okay, let's go to Minty. So this one is from Portia. Okay, it says, thank you, Dr. Maury. I thought it was, I'm not going to say the word F so pretty. I thought so too. Not thoughts of pretty before doing research for this presentation. Did you think the same thing?
Yeah, so I've seen both. And so I've seen Sheila talk about, so there's this lyric, and then there is the we can F until the dawn. So Sheila has said that she wouldn't say the curse word, and it's funk. But making love till cherry's gone doesn't really go with a George Clinton kind of funk. It goes with the FUC, right? So, and I do need clarity. Like those two lyrics, I know what I say when I'm dancing and I'm having a good time to Erotic City. I know what I say, but it's also radio edits and the internet has gone wild, right? So I think the more vulgar term makes sense contextually. And Sheila does say that Prince wanted that. And when you hear it, it's a really hard, and as a teacher, somebody, the C and the N, there's not a heavy distinction when you hear it. It's not clear. So I think that's also the joy of Prince and the humor of Prince. I think that, he's like, say what you're gonna say. She could have said funk. And he goes, people are gonna say it anyway. Right? And he knows that. And I think that there's a play on words there with him as well.
Right. Okay, so 1984. And for those who are here, who lived in 1984 and were here during that time, we experienced, I was only 2. No, but
Baby said Tonya.
Right? We experienced shows such as Dynasty, Dallas, everything that was essentially over the top. Do you think, and this is for both of you ladies, do you think the theme of the glamorous life represents that 80s opulence?
Sure. So I say yes. I think the fur coat is about that. I think I've arrived, and I'm going to be what you can't be. Right, I'm going to show you what's different. I'm going to show you what's out there, and Prince, and this translates to folks who work with him. You never were not who you showed up as, right? We never caught Prince in a jogger set, right? He was always Prince.
We caught him in jeans though.
We did
once.
No way.
Once, yes.
Yes.
You never seen that?
No. Well, the Rolling Stone cover. Is that what you're talking about?
No, this is like this is prior to that.
This
time
was
period,
81 maybe.
but we knew when he
82.
got rich.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so I'm looking at Robin. I'm thinking about we're in Nell's during the Act One shows, and Prince is in the basement, And it was the first time I was that close to him. I was like close how we're close, right? And the first thought that came to my mind, like, yo, he is rich, right? Because his clothes, his suits, and his suit, it was an ivory suit with an embossment, like paisley, big paisley pattern on it. And the boots were the same material. And I think the fur coat conversation feeds into this, I've arrived and I'm going to show up as I've arrived, and you're going to watch me, and let me say this, right? So yesterday's presentation, Robin and I were talking about the clothing line that was sparked as a result of Prince's clothes, right? People want to be that. And in 1984, yes, it was big hair. Yes, it was hairspray. Yes, it was lace. I remember when Alexander's got the beaded jacket and everybody had the beaded jacket. And I just dated myself with Alexander's, hello, right? So those pieces, I think, really speak to, pushing fashion forward and giving people something to look at. And then you either you had the money to go buy it or you chose to create it. My friends, we were on the creating end. Right, and you would and go to that thrift store and find that old fur and revive it in some way. So it's a part of that world.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I like
we.
that.
Oh, sorry. Go
Can I
ahead.
add to that? I did have something to add to that. I got distracted by your thrifting statement. But I think, it's important. Like, I like your reference to Dynasty and television at that time, and big shoulder pads, huge hair, huge earrings, and everything, and like having mixed race Sheila wearing that fur coat and all of those signs and symbols, right? And she's out there doing it, and I think it is always important to think of like context and who is wearing this, where is it happening, what is the context, and I just have to say, like. To wear that fur coat to bring that here, I had to walk, I was walking around this morning in Brooklyn, the Botanic Gardens, with this and that fur coat, and I was like, this is weird for me. And it's like a work fur coat in the summertime, and I was like, but I did it for you all. But also, I just feel like the context, right? It's like, I'm like, what? I mean, I'm sure there's people that are like, kind of eyeing me, but then I'm also like, this is New York City, like who cares, right? And then also we're here because of Prince, and Prince wouldn't care, so I got to get over it and just proudly wear this. But I was all like roasting; it was very hot. So,
Okay, we've run out of time, but one more question. We talked about B-sides. What song from the album? I say album, y'all say EP, tomato. No, it's an album. I say album. What song on the album should have been a B-side?
What song on the album should have been a B-side? I love the unapologeticness of Next Time Wipe the Lipstick Off Your Collar. It's so, I hear the Prince production in it. It's like if a girl answers, don't hang up. It's like on that kind of caliber. But as somebody who's really, because it's. I remember hearing it, it stands out. Like, she's not mad that he's cheating. Just show up right. Like, we can have agreements. And as a woman of a certain age, I'm hitting the big 50 this year. I get it, right? How relationship dynamics are not always. It would be great if we could all be within the societal norm. But if you've lived long enough, you're not. Right? You're not. Right? There's a difference there, and it was quirky at the time, but it's definitely something with age I've apprecited more.
I would agree.
Hearing that more front and center, not just because I think it can show up like kind of like a throwaway track on the album, but it's really. It's like either you get it or you don't. And when you get it, you're like, oh, the aha that comes along with it. Because it's like, I'm not looking for all of that. Hugging you is nice, right? But if you could, please, when you show up, wipe it off. Wipe it off your collar.
All I ask is for a little decency in class.
Pretty much.
So I have to make a confession. I love Sheila E., but I chose this topic so that I could learn more about her because I know how important she is, and it got me to read her her memoirs and to do more research about her. I have zero dogs in this fight about which track. Like, I mean, I leave that to the core four. And you, I'm really glad to be presenting next to you because I'm like, she can field all these really tough questions. But Sheila E. is incredible. I discovered the glamorous life at many of those Prince parties in the wake of his passing, and I just feel like I come to Prince first and foremost as a dancer on the dance floor, and for me that's like a spiritual experience, like really dancing to the glamorous life and the rhythms that she has, and it does feel, that song feels different. And no, that's not my answer for what song should be taken off the. But I love that that song so much, and so it's been this incredible joy to be here and listening to what everybody is saying about it and learning so much more and giving it so much more depth for me. So thank you.
Well, that concludes Glamorous Life presentations. Thank you, Dr. Karen. Thank you, Dr. Maury. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tonya.